bustling train station of Chicago's Union Station, where the clatter of trains and the hum of travelers filled the air, lived a man named Jamal Washington. At 30, Jamal had spent years on the streets, asking for spare change from commuters rushing to catch Amtrak trains or the L. With tattered clothes and a worn-out backpack, he scraped by, his days a blur of outstretched hands and hopeful glances. The station, with its grand arches and constant flow of people, was his world, a place where dreams passed by but never seemed to stop for him. One crisp October morning in 2025, as Jamal approached a well-dressed businessman in a sharp suit, he saw an opportunity. The man, tall and imposing with a briefcase in hand, looked like someone who could spare $1 or $2. "Spare some change, sir?" Jamal asked, his voice soft but persistent. The businessman, named Daniel Carter, paused and studied Jamal. His eyes, sharp and discerning, carried the weight of someone who'd built a fortune from scratch. "You're always asking, aren't you?" Daniel said, his tone firm but not unkind. "Do you ever give anything back?" Jamal blinked, caught off guard. "I'm just a beggar, man. All I do is ask. I ain't got nothing to give." Daniel adjusted his tie and leaned in slightly. "If you can't give, you've got no right to take. I'm a businessman. I believe in trade. You bring something to the table, and I'll give you something in return." With that, he boarded his train to New York, leaving Jamal standing there, the words echoing in his mind. Those words stuck with Jamal like a tune he couldn't shake. He sat on his usual bench, watching the crowd, and replayed the conversation. Maybe that's why his days felt so empty, why the change he collected never seemed to grow. He'd always seen himself as a beggar, someone defined by lack. But what if he could offer something? The thought gnawed at him. He had no money, no skills, no home. What could he possibly give? For 2 days, Jamal wrestled with the question, his mind a storm of doubt and possibility. Then, on the 3rd day, as he sat near the station's flower beds, planted to brighten the concrete jungle, his eyes landed on vibrant marigolds blooming despite the urban grit. An idea sparked. Why not give flowers in return for change? It was simple, but it felt right. He plucked a handful of the bright blooms, their petals soft against his calloused hands, and decided to try. That afternoon, Jamal approached commuters with a new approach. "Spare some change, and I'll give you a flower," he said, holding out a marigold. To his surprise, people smiled. A young woman in a business suit dropped $1 into his cup and took the flower, tucking it into her hair. A tired father gave him a quarter and handed the bloom to his daughter, who giggled with delight. By day's end, Jamal had collected more money than usual, and the flowers were gone. The next day, he gathered more flowers and repeated the process. Word spread among regulars at Union Station. There was a beggar who traded smiles for change. Some gave generously, appreciating the gesture. Others just wanted the flowers. Jamal noticed a pattern. As long as he had blooms to share, the money kept coming. When the flowers ran out, so did the generosity. It was a lesson in action. The give and take Daniel had mentioned was real. Weeks later, Jamal spotted Daniel again, stepping off a train. Heart pounding, he rushed over. "Sir, I got something for you today. Give me some change, and I'll trade you a flower." Daniel raised an eyebrow, dropped a few dollars into Jamal's cup, and accepted the marigold. He chuckled, impressed. "Well, I'll be damned. You've turned into a businessman, haven't you?" The word businessman hit Jamal like a lightning bolt. He watched Daniel walk away, the flower in his hand, and felt a surge of pride. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Daniel's words. "You've turned into a businessman." Was it true? Could he be more than a beggar? His mind raced with possibilities. He wasn't just collecting change, he was selling value. People weren't giving him charity. They were buying his flowers. The next morning, Jamal made a bold move. He used his earnings to buy a small batch of flowers from a local vendor, doubling his stock. He set up near the station's entrance, offering marigolds, daisies, and roses. Commuters responded. Some bought flowers for loved ones, others for their desks. By week's end, Jamal had made enough to rent a tiny cart. He painted it bright yellow, added a sign that read Jamal's Bloom Trade, and turned his hustle into a business. Months passed, and Jamal's venture grew. He partnered with a nearby nursery, expanding his inventory to include seasonal bouquets. He hired a friend from the streets to help, teaching him the trade. The cart became a fixture at Union Station, a symbol of hope amid the rush. Jamal's confidence soared. He wasn't a beggar anymore, he was an entrepreneur. 6 months later, Jamal stood on the platform in a crisp suit, waiting for a train to a flower expo in Detroit. As he checked his schedule, he noticed Daniel boarding the same train. They locked eyes and Jamal extended a hand. "Remember me?" he asked with a grin. Daniel squinted, then laughed. "The flower guy, you've come a long way. What's your story?" Jamal explained how that first encounter had changed his life. "You told me I had to give to get. I started with those station flowers, and now I own a flower business. I'm heading to Detroit to pitch to bigger clients." Daniel shook his hand firmly. "That's the spirit of America right there. You took a chance and ran with it. Keep it up." As the train pulled away, Jamal reflected on his journey. He'd gone from begging for scraps to building a business, all because he'd shifted his mindset. The give and take principle wasn't just a rule, it was a mindset. By offering value, he'd unlocked opportunities he never imagined. He thought of the kids he'd mentor with his profits, the jobs he'd create, and the pride in his mother's eyes back in Gary, Indiana.